vacation.
Yep.
Oh.
That would have been a good picture.
Yeah. We had another one upside down, huh?
So it's only holding by his ankles and he's not angry.
Okay, this is the Brigham Young home at Nauvoo on July 10th. This is also Austin's birthday, and we're going to go into the Brigham Young home. Later this afternoon, we're going to baptize our little buddy right here, old Austin Stewart, Gary Stewart.
Go that way, Paige.
How do you do the
Push the
zoom?
button.
Huh? No, I mean, does it zoom in and out?
Yeah?
How do you do that?
The birthday boy.
You want
Stay
it
there.
close up? More closer.
This home reflects the skill and craftsmanship of Brigham Young, second president of the LDS Church and great American colonizer. The East Wing served as a meeting place for the presiding councils of the church.
You just do that.
Yeah, that's all separate, and they have a special method they use. It's a matter of heating the bricks. And they also, the coal they use in there, they use that for the salt too. So not very many things that are wasted in a minor town home.
The fireplace, it looks exactly like rock, and it's not.
Yeah.
That little piece there.
Yeah, original. That's
Original, that's it.
Over by the window also, there's one more decor. When you get over and look that close, there's one more design on there.
So every finishing antiques and stuff.
So, yeah.
It's a different feeling when you step into here. I really do. And there's a very definite reason. I happen to know what happened in this room, and I hope I can explain it to you. This room, now, y'all know who this is.
Brigham Young.
This is Brigham Young, and that's just where we get in 1877. And you know who that is? Joseph Smith. Oh, man, I like that. When somebody comes in here and says, who are they? I know that they're all enough members of the church, and we have a lot of those. That's a good portrait of the prophet. This is the way Brigham Young looked about the time he was in Nauvoo. And a lot of the children seem to know that. So this room, and the reason it feels so different, it was almost completed in 1844, June of 1844. And all of you know the history of the church at that time, and that's when the prophet Joseph Smith was killed, and his brother Hiram. At that same time, most of the 12 apostles, including Brigham Young, were back east on a special mission. When they returned back here, then they were sustained, and that word's very important, they were sustained by the majority of the church membership to become the leaders, their leaders. And that's what they did from there on in. Brigham then being the senior member or the president of the 12 apostles, this room, his house, became the headquarters for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints worldwide. And that's exciting to me to know that then most of the 12, all the 12 apostles would have been here in this room at that time. All the leadership of the work of the surrounding area would have been in here. And if you go through all the different names that you read in your books in history, they would have been here in council. It's the only place that they met in other areas, but this is the one they did a lot of the decision making. And this is where they were doing several things. Particularly, they were still going right ahead of the plans that they had made, that Joseph Smith had made, that they were going to depart out of here. You know, that's clear back in what, 1842, when they knew that they were going to go to the Rocky Mountains. I think you know that, most of your own history. So they were just carrying out the plans, and that's all Brigham ever said that he was doing. He was just doing what the prophet Joseph Smith told him to do. And he had given all the keys to the Crown 12. And this is kind of one of those things you need to, I think you recognize, but some don't recognize. So they knew what their duty was. And that's what Brigham Young, the type of individual he was, he just went right ahead and took a hold and From then on in, they did several things, and they were planning the exodus. They were leaving here, and then they were going, they were making plans of who's going to do what, they were getting wagons ready, what they were going to take. At the same time, which is very exciting and interesting, they were continuing to build up the town all around them. They were still going to have many converts coming in. Anybody that wanted to come into town almost was let in. And at the same time, particularly, they were going right ahead with the temple. It was only about half constructed when the prophet was killed. It was only about a story and a half. So that was a necessity that had to be done and completed, and that's what they did. They went ahead with that temple until they completed that. Then they received the special blessings, the eternal blessings that come from them. And when they completed all they could, then they were ready to go. And that's what they did. They packed their wagon and they started their departure out of here. But that's not quite the end of the story, is it? It goes quite a bit on from there.
Long time here at Brighamstown.
Okay, good.
Good to see Wilbur, Sal. He's the one that converted a lot of our
Did he?
families.
Brought him over. There's so many of us have so many roots and so much connection.
Hey, did you ever see the movie,
This is the garden at Brigham Young's home.
Now this area is quite a bit different from Brighamstown. If you'd have been back in those days, I think you'd have seen all of the horses, and you would have had those, I'm sure. And you would have certain things, just like most pioneers. You would have had his cows, his cow, and only had at least one cow. And he would have had the sheep, and he would have had the pigs, and he would have his poultry, because that's their food supply. They're an absolute necessity. Well, back here then, he would have had gardens, and a place for his children to play, too. The gardens are an absolute necessity. Now, these items you see here, all of these were gone. They have been filled in, covered over, and until they started doing their excavating work, they didn't even know they existed. Oh, when they found them, they just redid them back from the foundations, as you see them here. Now, usually the children, in fact, a lot of us adults don't know why they have two, some of them call wells, but they're not. This is a cistern and that's a well. And they're very necessary, and I think most of the homes have the two. Now, does anybody know what and why they have the two? Not too many. Well, this is just a storage area for the rainwater. They would have had a special piping system come off the roofs, and they would run the rainwater in this storage area, and they used that, of course, because of soft water. This is where they like to wash their hair, particularly the ladies, and wash their clothes and take the baths in. They didn't have to use nearly as much of that very potent lye soap that they made, and maybe some of you have been acquainted with that. But it is very strong. So the less soap they could use, the better they liked it. When they used it in that lime water particularly, it would cause a come on the water and cause
Choo-choo, that's what it
a lot of these places, when they did their excavating work, like I say, they just rebuilt them about like they were in Brighamstown. This had a cooling shaft in, and as they were digging, they found quite a few of the old dishes. In fact, all kinds of items they found. Over the years, the people that lived here just thrown the trash in, so it's interesting to know that as they were digging, they found these beautiful dishes, and they repaired a lot of them, and they have them scattered around. They're from England, the 1840s, and just beautiful. And then we'll take you over here and show you his cellar, and we'll buy it.
You were saying that they sold it for $600 when they left?
Yes.
And so what would have been the value? Was it a good price, or did they get...
I don't think you'd call it a good price, but nevertheless, it's better than one of them. I'd say it's sufficient so that the people don't all begin to take care of that.
Alrighty.
Jordy. Jordan, come here.
That's one thing you miss with your grandchildren when you go, you know.
I bet you do.
Come on in, Shelley. Turn that off.
They about the same temperature year-round, but you're stepping on the original floor that was put in here by Brigham Young or whoever he had built it. But like I say, this was all gone, so what they've done, they come in here, we had so long to come out of our log cabin to get in that beautiful home and then have to leave it. But they did get to live in it almost 3 years, and that's a lot better than a lot of them. Some of them just a few months, but they all wanted to leave it just right before they left. And but one thing about it, they were still looking forward to home. You know, it's a good thing they had that. They knew they were going to follow a prophet. They knew they were going to a place where they could build their home, where they could build a temple, and where they could go to a place where they didn't have all the persecution. Well, they went to a place that nobody else wanted. And I think that was a kind of a shock when they saw the valley.
Oh yeah, when they left this place, it's beautiful as it is.
Oh,
I mean, they didn't
wow.
even need irrigation around here, did they?
Oh, no.
Plenty of rain. And they go dig those ditches around Monroe and
I'm down here at the corner of Bain and Water Street. Now, it didn't take them long. One more, yeah.
My bison done.
You gotta close the door for me. Thank you.
I need to get down here that this is the printing office that we just come out of. I think Ann had some of this tape, but in case she hasn't, here's the front of it. We are now going to the John Taylor home, which is right next door to the printing office. John Taylor had a lot to do with the printing of the paper here in Nauvoo, and also was the third president of the church. So our next home that we're going to go into will be the John Taylor home. Yes, there's about 15, 16 of us, I think.
Is this a family reunion?
Well, I've got my brother and his wife and daughter, and the rest of them are my kids and grandkids. So this horse is a horse that John Taylor, after they've been gone for 2.5 days, his son cried for 2 days. He came back in the night and picked up this horse, put it on his saddle, and took it back to his son, strapped it on the wagon, and took it to Salt Lake. We'll go back in Nauvoo, and this is trick for Meg. See that door down here? That is the cellar door right there.
You get your butt checked. We're up on the... Okay. Hey.
This is Heber C. Kimball's home.
Look up there. See where it says initials? Where? I don't need to watch this picture.
This is a Wilford Woodruff poem. This is the guy that baptized some of our family back in England.
Robert
The Robert Harris family.
and John Hebert Green.
And John Heber Green. This is a guy. And this is also Shelley's relatives. And we're just finding out that Brad and Shelley are kissing cousins once removed.
More than kissing cousins.
So,
And on the floor.
Somebody's not in here. Here we go. All right, let's get everybody in. Now, if you'll all just notice this bed, everything that China from England, they were noted for their fine china in 1840, and they're still noted for their fine china over in that area. But that is beautiful. Out of the 8 missions that Wilford Woodruff went on, 2 of them were to England, and if you were to walk down the streets of Old Nauvoo in 1845, about every 3rd person you met would be English. And he would, and they would be your family.
Some of them, because these women converted 2 sides of them for sure. And they were here.
And they were here. And so they would be the ones that, okay, come on in. Kind of over there. George. All right. Well, you can really know about a person if you go into a house that he has built, especially if he puts a lot of himself into it. And Wilford Woodruff put a lot of himself into this house. When he bought this property, there was just a log house on it. He moved Phoebe into that log house, and there they stayed and saved their money and resources for 2 years so that they could start this house, and then this house took a year. So for 3 years, they were in that little log house, and then they had 3 children by the time they moved into there. All right. And that picture was taken right after he had dedicated the Salt Lake Temple. You've all seen the Salt Lake Temple, right? Good. All right, the items in that room. Don't touch that. The items in this room were donated by the Wilford Woodruff family. She could sit down there. Oh, she'd be good. And that black chair right there was his favorite chair. He was 5'8" and weighed about 170 pounds. And the things on the mantelpiece he brought back from the United Kingdom. That middle one is Queen Victoria, who was Queen of England when he was over there. The picture on the wall to your left was his picture. It's made out of yarn. Very interesting picture. The books on the mantle, those small books on the mantle, were some he carried around in his pocket at all times. And the one is the New Testament, the other is the Psalter. I hope you got those books. She was talking to you, but I said, see, what books? Those are books he carried around in his pocket all the time. The New Testament.
This is the Calvin Pendleton home and school. This is a brickyard at Nauvoo, and you can see Ann over there talking to the guy that's showing us how to make the brick. He gave each one of us, each one of the family, each family a brick. He is from Firth, Shelley, Idaho area, and this is where the Mormons' brick factory was, where they made brick for all the homes in Nauvoo. And here comes the Renegade now. We spend at least a half hour every place waiting for Brad to visit with all of the missionaries. This is Mac Smith's home that we're going to go into right now. This home was built after the prophet was killed, and she lived here for a while. So we're going to go in this home now.
The Brigham Young Beaver Sea Kimball were the missionaries who taught him, and he was faithful to their example from then on. While he was here in Nauvoo, he was the Justice of the Peace, and he was also a bishop over a 28-block area. Big job for a man in those days. You can see from this old picture here that there were lots of homes, tents, shanties, log cabins all over the place because people were coming in so quickly. So he had a big job. When the nobles decided to leave Nauvoo to go west with the main body of the saints, the church purchased this home for Lucy Mac Smith, mother of the prophet Joseph Smith. She lived here with her youngest daughter, Lucy. So we have 2 Lucys, Mother Lucy and Daughter Lucy. Daughter Lucy was married to Arthur Milliken, and they had 2 children when they lived here. We're pretty sure that the Millikens slept upstairs. There were 3 bedrooms up there. The stairs was just like a ladder. So we're also sure that Mother Smith didn't do it. Didn't go up that ladder. Yeah, she probably slept right here in this little alcove. There's her picture there. She was 70 years old when she lived here. She had severe arthritis. She was only 4'11" in height. So that would have been just right for this little alcove and little big-border bed. That bedspread is made of men's ties, and that's why you can't even touch that because it's the 1840s. Yeah. Looks comfortable. That's the way men's ties looked in those days. Well, they had a conference here in 1845, an October conference, just like they do in the church today. Several thousand people attended.
Mom, what are you eating?
And they were mainly concerned about how they were going to go west, how they were going to abandon Nauvoo. So it was a big conference. So Mother Smith was one of the speakers at this conference, and it's important to know that she expressed the desire that she wanted to go west with her remaining children when the main body went. But she said, If I go, I want my bones brought back here should I die away to be deposited with my husband and children. You mean when they were driven out the second time? She was driven out. She was gone for about between 5 and 7 months.
This is part of the yard of Lucy Mack Smith, mother of the prophet.
Well, that addition that you saw, the parts of it came clear out here, so it's huge. It's a two-story addition. And you can see where they have filled in the doors parts. Well, this building was used as a firehouse here for a number of years here in Nauvoo, and they stored the fire engine in it. And so the fire engine took care of the flats out here. And when they removed the fire engine, then the building was just sit here idle, and by the time the church purchased it, then the roof was caved in, actually, and the walls had started to fall down. So they had to get the archaeology people and historians to come back in and take pictures and figure out what it would look like. So that's why you see all the wood parts are new, and you see that big beam up there was hewn by a broad axe, just like they did in those days. They left the wood pegs, so you can see. Instead of nails, they would use the pegs to put them together, and they left these big, yeah. Doodling around in that buggy. That's right. You just have to imagine what it would be like to harness a horse and get it hooked up, and you know what horses do when you hook them up with something.
Wasn't her buggy.
This is a duplex for the missionaries.
First duplex of the church.
Snow Ashby.
You want a picture of that?
Some of the missionaries stay in here while they're working at Nauvoo or serving their mission at Nauvoo. This is a Joseph W. Coolidge home, an example of the fine craftsmanship of Joseph Coolidge. This home features demonstrations of early frontier crafts. Yeah, there's why we're here. I finally read that. That any place that's got anything that says craft on it, we are forced and drugged into anything from Utah, Wyoming, Colorado,
Idaho,
Nebraska, Missouri, and Illinois into everything that has craft on it. And we're going to be drugged in this place. This is a George C. Reiser boot shop. This shop was started in, let's see, what is that, 1843 in a small home. It's filled with equipment used by a boot and shoemaker. So this is going to be our next visit is going to be in this shoemaker shop. As soon as we wait for our women.
that's the place he owns.
This is a picture of Austin Gary Stewart after his baptism in Nauvoo, Illinois on the 10th of July on his birthday, 1997. His dad spoke, baptized, confirmed, sang a solo,
One-man band.
and did a tap dance with his kids.
What did Kim do?
Kim just watched the kids run around the halls. And
Whole thing late. Are you recording?
this is a view from the steakhouse in Nauvoo where Austin was just baptized, looking down towards the river, the Mississippi River, down through the streets in Nauvoo. We had 16 family here for the baptism. Beautiful church with a beautiful view of the valley.
Get it right here. I'll have to stand by the sign.
Come right here.
Hey, by the sign.
Uh-oh.
Here comes Grandma down the sidewalk, coming right down. In fact, I'm going to bring her right up close where you can get a look at her. Yeah, I'll back her off a little bit.
You can get close.
She keeps running around, but I still got her on the film.
Mom, Yeah.
Stay there, Oz.
Okay.
Did you rewind it? What's Nauvoo House?
Yeah.